learned nothing from Palestine. It doesn't matter how many Palestinian flags you put in your usernames or cute little watermelon earrings and pins you wear out in public. It doesn't matter how many kafiyas you buy on TikTok Shop. If you have not managed to understand that Palestine is not just one issue, but is one symptom of a much greater issue, and that issue is Western imperialism, you have failed the test. I've been involved in anti-imperialism work since the year 2001. Everybody involved in anti-imperialism work in the early 2000s and probably before spent that time speaking up about Palestinian liberation when it was deeply unpopular to do so. People called you anti-Semitic, people called you straight up Nazis, people told you that Palestine was evil, that they murdered gay people, that they hated women, that they were being led by a harsh, repressive, terrorist regime, and they treated you like you were out of your mind. The reason people responded that way is not a coincidence. See, what the Western powers had done to Palestine is the same thing that the Western powers, and mostly the United States, if we're being perfectly honest, have done to other countries around the globe since our inception. It's a formula, and it is not hard to follow. A place has something you want, and they are not going to give it to you. You try to figure out a way to take it. The first way you try to figure out how to take it is to overthrow their government, stage a coup of some kind maybe, settler colonization in the region, buy all of their media outlets there and put your own politicians from your country or heavily linked to your country running in their election campaigns to effectively steal their elections, using the media outlets you bought there to pump propaganda into their people, telling them that your politician is actually the best and is going to save them, and their regular government and their politicians are evil and bad. And if that doesn't work, you try to systematically cut them off from the rest of the world through a series of embargoes and sanctions amounting to a total blockade where they are not allowed to import things they need to live or export things to generate revenue, and you hope that they will just kind of wither away and die. Now, in order to manufacture consent for our government doing these types of things to different places around the globe, we need to tell the American people that those people, the leadership of that place, is secretly evil and bad. And so evil and bad, in fact, that their people need to be liberated by our intervention, by our influence, by our allies, and maybe even directly by our military. The reason so many people in the early 2000s thought that Palestine was a deeply evil place is because of this. Massive propaganda campaigns had been coming out of Israel and the United States in order to discredit Palestinian people and their leadership. And those propaganda campaigns worked for decades, all the way up to October 7th. But what you don't understand is that those propaganda campaigns are currently still working on you about every other place around the globe that the United States has deemed as political enemy. Currently, right now, we see it with Venezuela. We saw it in Venezuela in the past as well. Cuba and North Korea are currently in the massive blockade embargo phase of this plan. You're not going to want to hear it, but it's true. In Ukraine, we did the media politician buyout plan. Pretty much all of Latin America, Chile comes to mind immediately, had to deal with the whole coup operation. This is all the same issue. And if you are falling for it again, when you hear people talk about what's going on in Venezuela or what's going on in Ukraine or what's going on in Cuba or what's going on in North Korea, you have not learned a single thing. And right here domestically at home, the argument has been made that there is an oppressed nation of Black Americans living within our borders who should constitute their own nation, rightfully so. What white America is doing to Black America is part of this same pattern. Now, for the past few days, I have been getting inundated by people who are basically being American imperialism cheerleaders. And I don't think these are bad people. I think these are people who want to do good. But they have frankly been so overwhelmed by Western propaganda designed to dehumanize the United States political enemies that they are not able to see the truth. They are not able to see what good and bad is. They are not able to put the appropriate blame on the main perpetrator of global violence, which is the United States. I'm sorry if it sounds too cliche and easy for you to believe it's true, but it is. There is a reason why all of our political enemies ally with each other, because they understand the fight against American imperial violence. Now, recently people have been really upset with me telling them everything they think they know about North Korea is a lie. But this is an issue I've been talking about for years, just like I talked about Palestine for years when it was deeply unpopular to do so, because it is true and it is the right thing to do. And there's a reason why North Korea and Palestine have been allies for a long time, and North Korea has helped Palestine in their fight for liberation by giving Hamas weapons to defend themselves. Similarly, there is a reason why the Black Panther Party had an alliance with North Korea. All of of these issues are connected, and what you think about all of these things is connected as well. North Korea was one of the biggest proponents of the Black liberation struggle here in the United States. North Korea has been on the side of Palestine since day one in what's been going on with Israel trying to steal their land and kill them all. Because North Korea knows what it's like to be victimized by Western imperialism. I know it is hard to unlearn propaganda you have been fed every single day. I know it is difficult. I know you don't want to believe you're propagandized. I know some of you aren't even Americans. You're like, how can I have been propagandized by American propaganda? But the response to that is not that you just stop trying. The answer is to keep trying. Look, there are many bad faith actors on this app who've made their entire platforms about selling you bullshit, basically, about America's political enemies. Zany North Korea being scary and evil and bad gets you clicks, gets you views, gets you money. But at what expense? If you really care about the North Korean people and you don't have the time and energy to put into actually trying to learn what's true and what's false about their leadership and how it works, the least you could be doing is calling for an end to the global blockade the United States via the UN has imposed upon them. There is no excuse for us to be sanctioning these people so they cannot import and export the things they need to live. And every time you spread misinfo about how bad and evil their leadership is, you are passively committing to this idea that they need to be punished for their sins. And that is the same ideology that ends up upholding the blockade and the sanctions and the embargoes against them. You are complicit in harm being caused to these people because you are too lazy to do the work to unlearn what you have been taught. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, but make sure in your desire to appear socially appropriate and say the right thing, you're not accidentally backing the bad guys just because they have the power to tell you who's good and who's bad. And they've decided those people over there are bad because they won't give up something we want from them, their land.